my name's Victoria Palmer. I'm a special needs primary school teacher and I have been a teacher for 8 years, and I work with children with varying abilities and sensory needs. Okay, so the best way to get in contact with us is perhaps possibly ringing the school direct and asking to speak to the English lead to discuss what types of books that their school requires or uses, or how do they use the book. So that's one option, is just a call, or to ask for their email, to send them an email, which I'm sure many English leads would give their telephone number, especially if it's about what types of books would help, and if you could offer links to websites with resources, or links to popular books that might help, that they might be interested in. Anything that makes it easy for them to find books that would help their school, that would be a good way. Other ways that I thought that might help get our attention is through social media. Obviously, outside of school, I'm in lots of groups on my phone, one being a Twinkle group. And they do, I don't know if you've heard of Twinkle, but Twinkle have lots of Facebook groups, which I'm part of, and they promote resources, and teachers connect to each other through that. And they do have a specific special needs group. And another idea is often when you're working, it's nice to be given new ideas to teach and implement a story or a book. So maybe if there was an option to sign up for a story of the month, and a link to that story, and a blurb to what it was about. So yeah, they're just some ideas that I have. So from a book event, from a special needs school perspective, it would have to be a highly sensory and engaging, all-inclusive activity. So often when we introduce a book in class, we'll read the story on a PowerPoint, and then it will include lots of interactive sensory experiences. So if the book's about a sheep, we'll have a toy sheep that they can pass around and touch. And if you have some non-verbal children, we'll have symbols that they can touch and respond to, or electronics that would help them to communicate. And then we make sure that there's music, and then they can be active and moving. We tend to always include some sort of bubbles, because they do love bubbles. And we start doing a lot of things to introduce stories, such as attention autism, which is a way of capturing their attention through doing activities so that they focus on the story. So in terms of book events, we have had in the past, we've had authors come to school where they've read their story and they've made it very sensory. We do work with children who access learning via just a sensory pathway, but we have other children that access learning very similar to a mainstream child. It's just that they're in the special school because they have behavioural needs. So we have to make sure that the books can cater for sensory learners and those that are learning at their age. So we would do the sensory story reading, and then on top of that, we would ask them lots of comprehension questions for those higher achievers that we have in the class. Yeah, so from a book event, we'd possibly look for someone to come into the school to read a story and make it very sensory and inclusive. Okay, so at Ladywood, because we cater for a large range of abilities, we have a large range of books. We've got specifically a box for sensory learners. Now, this box, it's actually very small, and it does need stocking up a lot, and people have to sign in a book and sign out. The sensory books that we have, they tend to be the electronic ones where you can push a button and they respond, or touchy-feely ones, or lift the flap books. So we as a special needs school, we need more of them. But then on the other side of it, we have high achieving learners who are reading at their age or above, and So we tend to get them books like David Walliams' series books that they can engage in, follow all the way through. And then in the middle, we have a lot of the Kipper stories. But I think at the moment they're quite old-fashioned, the ones that we have. So I think I did speak to the English team a while ago, and they said they're looking to get some more modern versions of those series for those that are accessing those. And other books that we tend to use will be themed towards what's going on. So if it's Easter, we'll have stories regarding Easter, and we'll theme a whole week on that story, or any other religious event. And finally, the other stories that we have, we often make these ourselves because they can be very specific to the child. They're social stories, so they'll be all about behaviour and how to behave. Say, for instance, a child keeps hitting another child, we'll make them a story about having kind hands. So it's a positive story, but we call them social stories, but they'll be very positive. So like how to be a good friend, but it is quite specific. But we do tend to make them ourselves because they tend to be very specific to each child. So they're the books we tend to use and access, and ones that we need more of.